Please welcome to the stage Anne Driscoll.
I know a man named Angel. He's not really a friend, at least not in the traditional sense of a friend. He's a prisoner, and he's serving a life sentence for a murder he didn't commit. And he's been in jail for 21 years. And for almost the last 10 years, I've been looking into his case and reading case files and court transcripts. And, when you get involved in a case, you find that there are a lot of mistakes very often in an innocence case like that. And to be honest with you, I'm not a lawyer. In fact, I have no training in the law. I'm a journalist. And truth be told, I have no training as a journalist either. I actually started out as a social worker. And I realized very quickly when I switched from social work to journalism that the skills are the same. You have to get to talk to people, get them to trust you, tell you things. But also, the function is the same. You're basically acting as a witness for someone, and you're validating their experience. And I found when I started doing innocence work and investigating cases in which people have been wrongfully convicted, that it's even a hybrid of both of those things, because you're listening to their stories and reporting it to the world that a mistake has happened. And very often, it's even more profound. It's such an amazing tie that binds you to that person, because very often you're the only person that believes them. And so Angel's case, as I said, I've been working on for almost 10 years, and I've gotten to know him very well. And even though I wouldn't say he's my friend, I do care about him deeply. And I went to visit him once when he turned 43, and it was his birthday. And so I bought him Hostess cupcakes out of the vending machine, and I sang him happy birthday. And he told me that it was the only time that anybody had ever visited him on his birthday. And in fact, the people from the Innocence Project where I worked, they were his only visitors ever. So in large part, because of my experience with Angel, I decided that I would apply for a Fulbright Scholarship. And I was very lucky to get it, and I came here to Dublin in September of 2013 to work with the Irish Innocence Project. And the idea of my project was to teach the law students working on the Irish Innocence Project at Griffith College how to investigate and interview in order to better progress the cases. And it was a fantastic year. It was like the best year of my life. And it was so good, and I was so lucky that I was invited to come back for another year. And the last night that I was here in May, before I went back to Boston, I went to the ATM machine, and I took out €120, and I was walking back along the Grand Canal to my apartment, which overlooks Griffith College, where I teach. And it was a beautiful night, and it was still light out, and I thought, it's your last night. You should take pictures. So I started snapping pictures of the neighborhood, and then when I got to my apartment, I thought, you should get some pictures of Griffith, too. So I went over it's right at Harold's Cross Bridge, and I went over to the bridge, and I was leaning on the railing with my iPhone snapping pictures, and a guy came up on a bike behind me and tried to grab my phone. And, this was not what I was expecting. And, when something like that happens, you have, no idea how you're going to react. This is how I reacted. Get the fuck out of here! And so we started wrestling. I have no idea what I was thinking. But I got my phone back. And I thought, okay, that's it. That's the end of this. But it wasn't. Because when I looked, while we were wrestling, my handbag actually got caught on the handlebars of his bike. And I could see that he saw that if he got away, he was going to get my bag. And I thought to myself, oh my God. In a split second, I realized if he gets my bag, he's going to get actually €150, my credit cards, my GNIB card, my PPS card, and my passport. And I was leaving the next day, and I knew if he gets my passport, I am not going to make it to see my son get his doctorate in physical therapy. I'm a mother. You know where this is going, right? I went mental. So we started fighting again. We're wrestling. I almost pull his pants off. We're fighting, and at some point I end up on the ground. And my pants get shredded, my knees get shredded, and I could see that he saw that other people were starting to notice what was going on. He took off. He left my bag. He also left his bike. So when this was happening, out of the corner of my eye, I had seen a car pull over on the bridge. And a guy got out of the car and he said, I'm an off-duty Garda. I saw the whole thing. I've called for assistance. The police are coming. And I thought, oh my God, the irony of this. I have spent my whole year here tearing apart the work of investigations, exposing mistakes. Doesn't make me that popular with the police. And here they are coming to my rescue. And so I was just like, I just can't believe the irony of this. And the next thing that happened is a woman came over from across the street, and she said, I saw the whole thing. She said, he went down under the bridge, he went that way. And she said, by the way, she said, you are the only person I know who gets mugged and then ends up mugging the mugger. We were having great crack at the crime scene. And then the third guy comes over, and he's on a bike, and he says, I followed the guy on my bike through the lanes. He said, I called the police. I think they have him. So the police come, and they say, what happened? So I say, well, you know, I teach at Griffith College. I'm leaving tomorrow for Boston. Guy tried to mug me. And he said, oh, what do you teach? And I thought, I am not telling you I teach wrongful convictions. I said, journalism. So he said, well, would you mind coming down? We'd like you to ID the guy. Now, what I didn't tell you about Angel is the reason why Angel is in jail for life for a murder he didn't commit is because of bad eyewitness identification. And I know from my work that 75% of the wrongful convictions that are overturned based on DNA evidence are due to bad eyewitness identification. I mean, everybody thinks like if you see something, it's like a tape recorder in your head, right? You're going to have accurate recall later. But that's not at all the way memory works. Memory is highly fallible and highly malleable. And yet, it's very, very convincing to a jury. And in the case of Angel, the guy that ID'd Angel couldn't tell time, couldn't tell height, couldn't tell weight, couldn't tell distance or time, what day of the week it was, his birthday, what town he was in. And so I was being asked to go down and ID somebody. And I know that this kind of ID, it's called a show-up. And it's the worst form of ID because it's completely subjective. It's not like you have 8 people in a lineup and you don't know, you're supposed to pick somebody out and you don't even know if the right person is there. In this case, there's one person and a couple of cops. And it's just like, I am just so distraught because I don't want to make the wrong identification. I know what happens to people when things go awry. And because I've heard the stories. I've heard what happens to people when they tell you their story and how, for no apparent reason, somebody is arrested and tried and convicted and sentenced for something they didn't do, and the fallout that happens. They lose their homes, their families, their livelihood. So I was not looking forward to doing this at all. But what choice do I have? I'm leaving the next day. So I go down, and there's a guy there, and he's leaning against the fence with a cop on either side. And I look at him, and I think, yeah, he had short blonde hair. But was he that short? I don't know. And I look, and he's got a navy blue tracksuit on, and yeah, I remember I almost pulled it off of him. But with the stripes white or green, I have no idea. And I think, I just don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's wrongful conviction. And I all of a sudden have sympathy for eyewitnesses because it's really, really hard to be an eyewitness. In the end, I say, yeah, it looks like the guy. But I'm not sure. Believe me, I'm not sure. So they asked me, will you come back and make a statement? Sign a statement. I say, yeah. We go back to the police station, and the cop that took my statement did everything as he should. He didn't misconstrue anything I said. There weren't any misleading questions. I signed the statement. It's exactly what I told him. So in this case, everybody did everything they were supposed to do, and even more. So I leave, and I had plans to meet a friend for a last pint, maybe 2 or 3. And when I meet with her, when we go to the pub, I'm telling her what happened. And, truthfully, it wasn't the mugging that unsettled me and rattled me. It was the idea of having to ID someone. That was what was really unsettling for me. That's what really shook me up. And, we were talking about it, and then the phone rings. Exactly 3 hours after this mugging happened. And it was the police. And they said, we just want you to know that the guy has confessed. And I was like, oh. And he said, he asked us to call you. He wanted to apologize and tell you he was sorry. And I was just so relieved, because, one more angel wouldn't be created. And truthfully, I'm waiting any day now to hear whether Angel is going to be freed. But the takeaway for me was that, yes, it's a very profound experience. You're bound to somebody. You're tied to somebody when you hear their story and when you act as a witness. But it's also a profound one when you're an eyewitness. Thank you very much.
Anne Driscoll.